Okay, we're on. Another minute or so. We'll be at 6 o'clock and we'll start. Mm. Okay, almost ready there, folks. And wait till right at the top of the hour. People are still popping in. Okay, here we are. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. So this is a third installment in a series I'm doing on the jhana factors and hindrances. And I'm doing them in pairs, one hindrance and one jhana factor, because they do match up. Each jhana factor particularly overcomes one of the hindrances. And last week we did Vicara, which overcomes Tinamida, but this applied thought overcomes sloth and torpor. And we're going to go through in the order of the jhana factors. So the order of the hindrances gets a bit mixed up but from the traditional order, but well, it's the way I'm going to do it. So the order of the hindrances gets a bit mixed up but from the traditional order, but well, it's the way I'm going to do it. And this week we're doing the jhana factor of Vicara, that is usually translated as sustained thought. And the hindrance is doubt or Vicikiccha. So let's talk about the nivarana doubt first, Vicikiccha. This is not exactly equivalent to the English word doubt. There are some senses of the English word doubt where it actually becomes spiritually beneficial, having an open mind, not having a closed mind, being open to new experience, new information. The Zen tradition has a saying, little doubt, small enlightenment, big doubt, big enlightenment. So doubt in that sense is the opposite of dogmatism or rigidity of mind. But here, doubt in the sense of Vicikiccha means uncertainty, and sometimes it's translated as uncertainty, which may even be a better translation. The uncertainty or wavering, unsettled nature of mind. And there is an underlying desire for an answer, but one is not able to find an answer. So rather than just remain in it with an open mind, one jumps back and forth in an unsettled way between possibilities. And the particular uncertainty or doubt that is most damaging is doubt about essential Dharma, like the Four Noble Truths, three characteristics, and so on. That if one has uncertainty about emptiness, about the truth of suffering, then the mind is not really able to properly follow the path. The opposite of doubt in this sense is saddha, which is faith or confidence. And again, it's not a dogmatic faith, but a confidence in the teachings that give you the strength to go forward. And the question can be asked, what do we have faith in? And I think the one element of the Dhamma that really requires faith is the third noble truth. The truth there is an end to suffering, which is the equivalence of nibbana, or the unconditioned. The first and second truth can be verified by experience and by reasoning, and by inference. They're subject to that kind of examination and analysis. And the fourth truth is a recipe for practice, and can be verified by doing it and seeing it works. But the third truth, until one has reached the level of stream entry, nibbana remains entirely unknown, unknowable, and can only be taken on faith. There's no way we can prove or verify the reality of the end of suffering, of the unconditioned, of nibbana, without having reached it and experienced it. And I think this is actually quite critical for practice. And I've noticed over the years that I've been teaching that those people who make good progress and have good results are the ones who have faith. It seems to be the one variable that's most important. And people who are full of doubt about the practice, they don't have the inner strength or resources when it gets difficult to push through. If you're uncertain about whether this is the right thing to be doing, as soon as it gets difficult, you'll give it up. But if you're full of faith, you'll push on and make it through. There are a number of stories in various from various sources about with a common sort of motif. There's a great famous teacher, and he's got all these learned disciples, and he's approached by some simple person, and an illiterate peasant, or somebody like one of the Zen versions is Huaneng, is the backward and ignorant southerner, prejudice against southern Chinese from the northern Chinese, and they approach the teacher, and they get just a few words of teaching, and the teacher, in some versions, it's like the teacher's just trying to get rid of this hillbilly, just give him a few words of teaching, and the fellow is so grateful. Thank you, master. And he goes off and just follows the teaching without any hesitation or doubt, and he attains to all kinds of advanced states. Whereas the more learned person, who's got this skeptical, critical kind of mind, is always second guessing himself. Am I doing it right? Is this the right method? Maybe I should listen to this other teacher. Maybe I should do something different. Maybe I should go somewhere else. So they constantly thwarting their own progress. And this happens internally on a subtle level, the Vicikiccha in the meditation, that if there's a hesitancy in the meditation, a kind of a lack of commitment to just go forward, to just keep going. A couple of ways this manifests. One is doubts about the practice, and it's useful if you have questions about the practice to study or consult a teacher to help clarify them. But in general, it'll sort itself out in time if you just keep going. You might save some time by getting a clarification, but if you just keep practicing, it eventually sorts itself out. The other doubt that is quite crippling to the progress of the meditation is doubt about yourself. To have a view such as, well, the Buddha became enlightened, Ajahn Chah became enlightened, but I'll never do it. It's not possible for me. That kind of doubt will just stop you dead. You have to just abandon yourself to the practice. Vicikiccha is this kind of doubt, the uncertainty. It's said in the Visuddhimagga, it's born principally from Yoniso Manasikara, unwise attention. And the Buddha said this too in the sutta. He said that I see no other factor so conducive to doubt as unwise attention. Yoniso Manasikara means examining objects in the wrong way. So seeing them as desirable or as substantial or as permanent, looking at them from this distorted lens, rather than penetrating the actual nature of things as they are. And this certainly overcomes doubt, is seeing reality as it actually is, and a direct, immediate experience of something leaves no room for doubt. So in terms of the jhanas, doubt is classified as one of the nivaranas, that is the mental states that keep us from unifying the mind and attaining deep samadhi and jhana. And the particular jhana factor that's opposed to it is vicara. Now, last week we spoke about vitakka, and these two are a pair, vitakka and vicara. They usually occur together in the mind. In the ordinary course of daily life, vitakka and vicara are those sankharas, or mental factors that manipulate the other sankharas. They allow the mind to think and to speak by this kind of manipulation. Vitakka is the factor that initially points to or puts the mind onto an object, and vicara is the further holding or steadying of the object. One simile that is actually quite beautiful, evocative of these two factors, is a bird in flight. You've seen like a hawk or an eagle or some large bird in the sky gliding, just holding their wings steady and just coasting in the air. And every now and again they'll flap a little bit to maintain altitude. And that flapping is vitakka, and the steady soaring is vicara. So vicara is the more refined characteristic. Vitakka is considered crude in comparison to vicara. Now, most of you are probably familiar with the system in the suttas of the 4 jhanas. And the first jhana has 5 factors: Vitakka, Vicara, which we're talking about, Piti and Sukha, rapture and bliss, and Ekagata, the unification of mind. There is another system found in the Abhidhamma that talks about 5 jhanas. It divides the first jhana into 2. The first one has Vitakka and Vicara, and the second one has Vicara only. And Vitakka is lost. So this is an interesting perspective, and I take it as a kind of support of my interpretation, which I spoke about in the first lecture, about one of the best ways to think about jhana is not so much in terms of discrete states as a continuum of ever deepening samadhi. So the names we put on the first, second, third, fourth jhana are landmarks that we can see as this characteristic, that characteristic, but it's part of a gradual, steady deepening of samadhi. And the first jhana in the familiar sutta system gradually deepens so that Vitakka becomes less and less needed, less and less evident, until it fades away entirely. But Vicara remains longer. It's the more subtle factor. Vicara is a steady holding of the object. I put the thumbnail for this talk, a hand holding an egg, because that's one of the ways to think of Vicara, is if you're holding a raw egg in your hand, you need to have a steady, firm grip, but not too tight. If the grip is too loose, you'll drop it on the floor. If it's too tight, you'll squash it and make a mess. But it's just a steady, gentle pressure holding the egg. This is how Vicara holds the object in samadhi. A pin and a piece of string. The pin you push into the paper is like Vitakka, and then the pen you're holding at the end of the string and moving around is like Vicara. It remains centered on the object in a steady way. Now, if the mind has a strong Vicara, it you should remember this is a component of jhana, so it's associated with deep samadhi. If the mind is good Vicara, there's no room for Vicikiccha, for doubt, because the mind is steady. It's not wavering. Vicikiccha pulls the mind away from that steadiness because it's unable to settle. It's shifting back and forth. Is this right? Is that right? Whereas Vicara doesn't bother with that. Vicara just holds the object. So if you're meditating on the breath, Vitakka puts the mind onto the sensation of breathing, and Vicara holds it. The mind remains steady with this sensation of in and out breath. And Vicikiccha might come in and say, well, Ajahn so-and-so said to do it this other way, and another Ajahn said to do it that way. I wonder which is correct. Whereas there's no room for that with Vicara. You just, here's the object, I'm just staying with it, settle to it, and just let it be in peace. So Vicara is much more steady and peaceful than Vitakka. And there's a a pleasantness to it, holding the object in a steady way. But initially, Vitakka is required to strike the object, to hold the object, to allow Vicara to hold the object. Another simile is like ringing a gong. I think I may have mentioned this one last week. If you strike a gong, the initial striking is like Vitakka, and then the reverberation that holds for some time afterwards and makes a nice steady sound is Vicara. And this is quite applicable to the meditation, because the steady sound will gradually diminish, and you need to strike it again to refresh it. But obviously, if you just kept striking the gong again and again and again, you wouldn't have a nice sound. It would be very discordant. So you apply Vitakka when needed, and mostly rely on Vicara. And as the samadhi deepens, you can dispense with Vitakka altogether. If you're unable to hold the object, you're unable to find that steadiness, then look for a Vicikiccha. Look for the doubt arising in the mind and the wavering in the mind. And this is, as we say, rooted in Ayonaso Manasikara, or wrong attention. So if something, for example, if you're meditating and something occurs either in the body or externally, let's say, to take a random example, let's say it's a fly buzzing in the room, you hear the sound and you allow yourself to be irritated by it, you're going out to it, that's Ayonaso Manasikara. That's the attention is being wrongly directed. Whereas if you recognize it just as a sound and pay no attention to it, you and have no secondary thoughts or reactions to it, but allow it to just pass away into the background of consciousness, and then the mind can remain steady on the breath. And the impingement from the external sense objects like that becomes less and less as the samadhi deepens. It's a part of the nature of a jhana, a critical aspect, is that it is a sublimation of the mind from the sense experience level, kama bhumi, to the level of form, the rupa bhumi. It's like a phase shift in consciousness, and the impact of the external senses, sight, sound, and so on, become less and less as samadhi deepens, and one becomes more centered in and focused on the internal world, the world of the mind, rather than going out through the senses. So incidentally, this is why sense restraint is very important as an adjunct to meditation. So I think that's all I'm going to say about Vicara and Vicikiccha for the time being, and I'll stay on and answer questions. And just note that next week it will be Piti and Vyapada, that is rapture and ill will. Okay. Question: How one right away? How would Vicikiccha and Papancha interplay? Papancha is proliferation of the mind. It's when the mind is spinning out, making stories and plans and schemes, and building castles in the air. This is Papancha, and it certainly has a an affinity with Vicikiccha because of uncertainty or doubt with present reality, then the mind wants to go and construct alternate realities or try and construct models or ideas endlessly rather than just be present with the ordinary reality as it is at this moment, which is that's Yonaso Muskara, right attention, and it's incompatible with doubt or Vicikiccha. Because, as I said, if you are experiencing an actual Dhamma at this moment, what is the object of consciousness at this moment, and you're experiencing it directly without any coloring or elaboration or emotional reaction, just a bare bone reality. There's no room for doubt. It's just that's what it is. Okay, let me see here. Last week, you answered my question on if one could experience jhana in lucid dreams. The lucid dreams I have are deep and feel real. A lot of things I've experienced in them sound similar to what meditators experience in deep meditation. Is it possible to attain enlightenment in these lucid dream states? I would not like to answer that definitively. I would think theoretically it's possible. I've not heard of any case of that actually happening. But I wouldn't rule it out. But I'll leave that as a kind of an open question there. Are doubts about things like decisions at work fit to be considered as Vicikiccha? No, not really. When we have situations arise in the life, like you have to make a decision, and then you have some uncertainty about it, then that's a sort of a useful kind of doubt that you have to make a decision one way or the other. Before that, you're kind of in between, and you have to make that decision. But once a decision is made, then it's helpful generally to have confidence in the decision and carry forward. If you keep changing your mind midstream, then you don't make progress either in mundane matters or in meditation. What is the difference between mind and mental factors? In Abhidhamma, there two of the primary categories of reality are citta and cittasika. Citta is what is often translated as mind, and cittasika as mental factors. Citta is the knowing, the pure subjective experience. It's in Thai they call it puru, that which knows. There's the one who knows. So it's just a pure knowing, and it's better not to. These kind of terms are in a way misleading because we're forced to use nouns, but there's really nobody or no thing that's knowing. There's just knowing. It's just a pure verb. It's just the knowing, the fact of being aware, of having experience. And the mental factors, the cittasikas, are those things which arise associated with citta. That's what cittasika means, associated with citta. The citta is a version of citta. Cittasika, those things which arise associated with citta. So they're all the mental factors like thinking, having emotions, paying attention, making a decision. These are all cittasikas. And from the point of view of citta, they're objective. They're external to the citta. The citta knows them but doesn't include them or do them. The citta really has only that one simple function of experience and knowing. It's a form of practice that's spoken about in the Thai tradition is centering yourself in the citta, just the pure knowing, because that's like the eye of the hurricane. All the it's still and calm, and nothing affects it. Nothing affects the chitta. So whatever else is arising, one's just aware of it, but not affected by it. Okay, next question. Uh, if someone goes to sleep and wakes up as if no time has passed, and during the day when one is awake, their mind is blank with no thought unless they want to think of something, would this be because of past light practice of silent illumination, meditation, or something else? I would be uh, cautious about identifying that with any kind of um, past illumination experience. Uh, you would need to ask whether there's a still a brightness in the mind. It sounds more like a just falling into bhavanga, into dullness or unconsciousness. Like a lot of the time in waking life, in normal waking life, we're constantly going in and out of bhavanga. That's why we forget things, and when we're dull or tired, we're spending more time in bhavanga. And when we're keen and mentally alert, then we're not going into bhavanga, or not nearly as much, or not nearly as much. And so, if you're missing time, you're blank, and you're forgetful, then I don't really see that as necessarily a good thing. Would you see a connection between faith and vichara independent on one another? They're certainly complementary. They're not really exactly the same thing. They're two factors, both of which are opposed to doubt, to Vicikiccha. Um, the vichara being steadiness, and faith being confidence, inspiration to carry on. I don't think it's. I don't think they're the same, but they're complementary. They help each other. Alan Watts says that rebirth is in each moment rather than between lives. Is this correct? I think it's both. Um, this comes up in discussions about the dependent origination. There are some who prefer to think of the dependent origination as occurring momentarily, and others who interpret it through the matrix of multiple lifetimes. And I've never really seen the two as contradictory to each other. They're just looking at the same phenomena on different timescales. Uh, this is why I think a question, one of the frequently asked questions, probably the head of the list of Buddhist FAQs, is how can you teach no self and also rebirth? Aren't they contradictory? And they only seem contradictory because the person has an implicit assumption of continuity within this life. That if you understand that each moment in this life, chitta is arising to an object, and there's a continuity only of cause and effect, like dominoes falling down, but there's no continuity of substance, then the problem of rebirth disappears. It's just uh, another cause and effect relationship. And the difficulty only comes if you assume that it's different in the course of a day. So I would say, yes, rebirth occurs in every moment, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't occur uh, in a more radical way after death. Okay, so I think we can call it for today. I think that's sufficient. We've had a few good questions, and we'll come back together again next week at the same time. And the topic will be, as I said, PT versus Uyapada. So have a good week, everybody. Thank you for coming.